почитувани гости. Третиот панел денес ќе ги разгледува возможностите и предизвиците на снабдувањето со природен газ во регионот, како и придобивките и ризиците во гасниот сектор. Посебен осврт ќе имаме на LNG, потоа нови постоечки гасоводни рути, кризата помеѓу Украина и Русија, политичката криза и влијанието врз регионот, предности на природниот газ и искуствата во однос на другите флуиди и развој на алтернативни системи, како и природниот газ и целите на одржлив развој на Обединетите нации, со посебен осврт на целите под број 7, 13, 12 и 13. Ке отвориме дискусија со нашите панелисти и за трговијата со природниот газ во регионот, негово снабдување, како и во земјите од Западен Балкан, така и во Европа, и можностите и новите алтернативи. Со мојот пријател Sotirios Nikas, кој што минатата година на првиот семинар зема учество, ќе разговараме и за гасните коридори на Република Грција со соседите, капацитетите на природен газ на оперативниот системот за природен газ во Грција и можностите за користење на LNG во регионот. Ќе почнам со дамата, Джеси Скот, меѓународен советник од Агора, и сакам да започнам со предностите на природниот газ, искористување во однос на другите флуиди, како и развој на алтернативни системи. Повели, Джеси.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for the invitation today. It's been a real pleasure and very interesting to listen to the conference so far. Agora Energiewende is a think tank and policy centre working on the energy transition in Germany and the European Union and increasingly worldwide. And I'm the senior advisor for international matters there. I want to talk about the potential benefits in the energy mix of this discussion about gas in the panel, and then we will turn to the people who will go in more and more into the specifics of how to deliver the gas into North Macedonia. As we know from recent scientific work of the International Panel on Climate Change, the energy transition needs to be global if it's going to be effective, and that means everyone, every nation has a responsibility to move to a clean energy system. Clearly some of the very big actors in the world, but everyone means everyone, including perhaps some of the smaller. We also know from the most recent work that the IPCC has done that it stresses the importance to limit the average temperature change that is going on with the global warming process today to 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels. That transition requires urgent action as well as the high ambition of the long term that we are talking about. High ambition involves a transition to renewables, much more energy efficiency, and the rest of this conference I think will discuss that tomorrow. I very much hope that the audience will stay and participate in those discussions. That's the main focus of Agora's work, but getting to the action that is necessary also requires urgent results. And in the North Macedonian context, that requires the immediate replacement of the lignite coal power generation. That's the basis of the electricity system today. And the logical replacement is with natural gas. Switching from a simple steam turbine that you have today at Bitola, which is operating 6,000–7,000 hours a year, with the equivalent combined cycle gas turbines would save you around half the emissions that you have in your power sector. A gain in efficiency, in the equipment, and a gain, of course, in the emissions with the switch from one fuel to the other. And that would move, if my calculations are right, North Macedonia from well above the European average in terms of the emissions from the power sector to well below in one single simple step. That has to be a very attractive story and prospect and plan to investigate. That would be immediately effective, urgent action, and obviously a first step on the energy transition road, consistent with global climate objectives as outlined by the IPCC. Of course, for this to happen, there has to be a new commercial basis for buying the gas, and there are new infrastructure needs, and that will be addressed by the other members of the panel. I want to have one more general remark, which is that listening this morning, I felt that North Macedonia is actually very fortunate. You have considerable opportunities. You have a hydropower resource that is a dispatchable, renewable power resource. You have considerable solar potential. Driving down here, I didn't see as many solar panels as I expected, but I listened to the Prime Minister, and clearly there is a strong ambition to change that. And I think in solar, in terms, as we were discussing earlier, in Macedonia today, you could probably do at commercial level without further support from the government. And then, of course, you clearly have a strong ambition and will at the moment for action, and that message has come through, particularly from the Prime Minister and from the first panel. So I'm delighted to be learning more about the system here, and let's turn to what our colleagues can say about delivering the gas that would win that enormous emissions reduction in a single simple step. Thank you.
Благодарам, Джеси. Благодарам. Вториот наш панелист ќе биде Rostyslav Palagusynets, прв секретар на амбасадата на Украина во Република Северна Македонија. Моето прашање до вас е тоа што сите не засега, кои се новите и дали се загрозени постоечките гасни коридори кои што транзитираат низ Украина и кои се информациите кои што ќе ги споделите со нас помеѓу тоа што се случува помеѓу Газпром и Нефтогаз.
Добър вечер, ви благодарам на поканата. Чест ми е задоволство да бидам дел од овој прекрасен настан, да ги споделам своите мислења, да слушам другите интересни мислења. Веројатно ќе почнам од второто прашање за нашите односи со Русија. Како е известно, во 2014 година се оствари агресија од страната на Русија кон Украина, кога го окупира Кримот и го направи инвазија во источниот дел на Украина. За нас необходно беше да бидеме солидарни и да се приклучиме кон санкции на нашите партнери, европски партнери и партнери од Соединените Американски држави, за што сме им благодарни. Предизвик голем беше за нас да го намалиме нивото на користење на природен газ, кој што пред 2014 година го целосно откупуваме во Русија. Значи, до 2014 година увезуваме околу нивото на користење на природен газ беше околу 60 милиарди метри кубични газ, од кои 44 милиарди ги увезуваме од Русија и околу 17 милиарди го произведуваме сами. Во 2014 почнаме намалување на оптимизација, да речеме, на користење на гасни енергенси, со кои, да речеме, намаливме драстично ниво на користење на газ. Денешниот ден, 2018 година, нивото на користење на природен газ во Украина е околу 32 милиарди метри кубични, што значи го намаливме скоро 50%. Прашање е како постигнаме овој резултат. Овој резултат постигнаме развивајќи ги 4 компоненти. Првото, намаливме нивото на потрошувачка на природен газ во Украина. Второто, зголемивме производство на собствен природен газ. Имаме во Западна Украина, во Карпатски планини, предпријатија кои произведуваат газ. Значи, секоја година околу 500 милиони метри кубични ги произведуваме екстра. Сега сме стигнати на ниво 21 милиард метри кубични годишно. Третиот компонент скоро укинаме увезување на газ од Русија. Значи, и пренасочивме кон западните земји. Во моментов откупуваме газ во Словачка, Полска, Унгарија и така натаму. Нивото на увезување од газ е од прилика 10 милиарди метри кубични годишно. И четвртиот компонент, многу битен за нас, е енергоефикасноста. Значи, помагајќи на граѓани, субвенционирајќи ги, од 2014 до 2018 година заштедиме околу користење на околу 6 милиарди метри кубични газ со енергоефикасноста. Значи, тоа е една работа. Што се однесува после тоа како намаливме влијание на Русија кон Украина, се соочиме со другиот предизвик. Другиот предизвик е желбата на Русија да заобиколи Украина и да направи заобиколување на украинскиот главниот гасовод со кој поминува рускиот газ од Русија преку Украина до европските потрошувачи. Значи, намерите на Русија да насочи да пренасочи значителен дел од свој проток на газ преку турскиот тек и северниот тек се загрижувачки. Сите руски проекти за гасовод кои што заобиколуваат Украина се, вклучувајќи ги и северниот тек и турскиот тек, ја зголемуваат зависноста на Европска Унија од руската енергија и дават на Русија дополнително влијание врз Европа за остварување на руските политички и економски цели. Северен тек 2 го загрозува европско единство, затоа што влегувајќи во Европска Унија преку една земја, се одзема профитот од другите земји кои претходно го добивали, кои претходно беа на рутата на снабдување со газ, такви како Словачка, Полска, Унгарија, што создава непотребна конкуренција меѓу внатре во Европска Унија. Нема ниту економски, ниту финансиски причини за изградба на Северниот тек 2. Проектот кој не обезбедува пристап кон новите извори на газ, само нуди паралелни рути за кои се потребни големи трошоци. Трошоците за изградба на Северниот тек 2 се приближно двојно поскапи од неопходни трошоци што мора да се инвестират во украинскиот постоечки гасовод за неговото модернизирање. Трошоците за газ низ Украина од 2020 година ќе бидат 3-4 пати пониски од колку транзит преку Северниот тек 2. Според нашите проценки, ако го задржиме нивото на транзит од 70 милиарди метри кубични годишно, гасот од 2020 година ќе биде поевтин, транзит на гасот преку украински гасовод ќе биде 3 пати поевтин. Ако го зголемиме до 110 милиарди метри кубични, ќе биде дури по 4 пати поевтин од транзит преку Северниот тек 2. Опасноста од прекумерната зависност од рускиот газ се манифестираше на почетокот на март 2018 година, кога Русија, не сакајќи да ја почитува Стокхолмската арбитражна одлука, значително го намали притисокот на газот во газотранспортниот систем на нејзината страна од граница, со што се загрозуваше снабдување со газ на Европска Унија. На нашиот поглед има и други ризици кои ги донесува реализација на Северниот тек 2. Меѓу кои, значи, гледаме дека преку Северниот тек 2 Русија планира да прави притисок кон европски земји. Значи, пренасочување на рутите и значи, гасоводна цевка да влегува во Германија, Словачка, Маđарска и Полска немат доволен капацитет транзитен кој ги врзува со Германија. Поради ова очекуваме да биде голем дефицит на природен газ во случај на реализация на Северниот тек 2, затоа што голема количина на газ, околу 110 милиарди кубични метри, ќе биде необходно да се дистрибуира од Германија па кон источниот и јужниот дел на Европа. Во случај на хаварија на гасоводот, ќе предизвика застанување во работа на тој гасовод, што исто ќе предизвика проблем и прекин во снабдување на гасот со гасот на европските земји. Принудување на европските земји да купуваат руски газ преку Северен тек 2 наместо да ја користат постоечката инфраструктура на Украина значи напуштање на совршено функционален и сигурен систем во корист на инвестирање милиарди евра во нов очигледно политички проект. Овие трошоци на крајот ќе бидат платени од страната на европските потрошувачи. Значи, тоа се нашите ставови и мислиме дека Северниот тек 2 е ништо повеќе од политички проект. Во позадина нема никаква економска ефикасност.
Благодарам. Интересно и до сега не слушнато за мене. Искажување, се надевам дека побудивме интерес кај гостите и очекувам прашање на вашето излагање од страна на гостите. Трет говорник на овој панел ќе биде Ден Милстен, директор на Европската канцеларија на Департментот за енергија на Соединетите Американски држави. И тука ќе направам само една отстапка. Сотирис Никас да спреми презентацијата. Вие ќе бидете следниот говорник, за да не ни се поклопат две презентации пред последната и последната. Господине Ден, какво е вашето искуство? Што е тоа што ќе направи, што ќе биде тоа што ќе го направат Соединетите Американски држави да имаме стабилна и поголема испорака на LNG во регионот? Вие знаете дека Реветјуса е во реконструкција. Очекуваме дека до март-април следната година ќе биде припремена да прими и поголемо количество на LNG, кој што ќе му даде сигурност на целиот овој регион од такво едно снабдување алтернативно од досегашното. Повелете.
Thanks for the question. I'm glad that I didn't know what it was going to be in advance, so I didn't have to actually prepare remarks. So, at the introduction, you mentioned the question of gas supply for the region, and I kind of jotted that down and thought to myself, in my mind, the question for this region, and North Macedonia in particular, is a question of gas demand. There's been a long-running conversation, as long as I've been in the U.S. Department of Energy and long before, about the various ways of supplying gas to the region. But in many ways, the question is, in many ways, the question's backwards. It's for what end use would the gas be for? Jesse mentioned, one option, the conversion of the Bitila thermal power plant to gas. That would be significant creation of gas demand in North Macedonia that would justify the build-out of the infrastructure to supply it. I don't know if any of you remember the American movie Field of Dreams. It's kind of, if you build it, they will come. I'm not so sure that's the case. There's certainly, the end use is, of course you need power. And in North Macedonia and much of the region, you need electricity most in the winter because there's such ubiquitous electricity for heating. Kind of a system of systems. So gas could replace electric heating if it was built out in the household sector. If you had buildup of gas distribution networks, and perhaps, not in Skopje, but elsewhere where gas is not being used for district heating, that's another use. I don't want to dodge your question. So the U.S. government's position, and this is a long-running position because it's right, is that energy security is in diversification. Diversification of sources, diversification of routes. In gas, I would say that for too long, or I'd say up till now, and perhaps still now, there's been this kind of the inertia of the assumption that gas can only be supplied by pipeline in a gaseous state. What we've seen, and what we're seeing if you're looking, is that the market's changing. There's been huge growth in the LNG market globally. The number I got last year, the global LNG supply grew to 432 billion cubic meters. You know, most experts, I mean, no one has a perfect crystal ball, but a lot of expectation that that will double in the next 20 years. That is radically changing the global gas market, creating a global gas market where there wasn't one before. I would pose the question back to you, given your influential position in the government. How can North Macedonia and the other countries in the region tap into this and extract benefits from this, you know, very new, very exciting development in world energy markets? It is not necessary. Well, I don't want to contradict anybody who I report to or others who might take offense. There's been too much focus, or I would say an exclusive focus on LNG as being a substitute fuel for pipeline gas. And these kind of debates of, oh, can LNG, after being transported across an ocean, landing at a regasification terminal, turn back into a gas and push through the same pipelines to only the same end users who are connected to the pipeline network? You know, can that LNG compete on price with piped gas? I'd say that's the wrong question. If I could be so bold as to say, rather than asking, how do we find a way to build commercially non-viable gas pipelines to supply gas in a gaseous state to end users who don't need very much in this region, I would say, ask yourselves which energy needs in the Western Balkans and North Macedonia could be cost effectively served by LNG delivered in containers, using existing infrastructure to get it to end users who might not be connected to the gas grid. Gas pipelines aren't free. I think I'm reminded of an old hand back in Washington who told me, that the greatest danger is that, another one of our policymakers gets a map and a pen and starts drawing these ideas, and then we'll be forced to try to chase these lines on the map. So I dare say there's a little truth to that. There are, LNG in a liquid state, it's 600 times as dense as gas delivered in a pipe. And you can deliver it on existing infrastructure, by truck or by rail on the roads and train lines that already exist, basically to anywhere. It need not just be used, in the same ways as piped gas. It was kind of a light went off when I was reading the news one day, end of March. It was the news story out of Montenegro, and I don't know if our speaker from Montenegro is still in the room. The Prime Minister of Montenegro went to the Cap aluminum smelter outside Podgorica, went on a tour. There was investments to improve the efficiency and productivity of this old smelter, and I kind of seized on this little part where the Prime Minister said, yes, and I was pleased to see that it was interesting to see that the smelter has been, for cost-saving purposes, is being switched from using fuel oil to LNG. And I'm thinking, wow, what does that supply chain look like? And I asked around, and someone who's been right before and who I generally trust said, yeah, it was either the truck loading, about to go on another tangent. LNG, there are some LNG terminals that can load trucks. There are others, many that cannot. The nearest LNG terminals that can load trucks are in Marseille and in Barcelona. And so it was one of those two that loaded a truck that, according to this person I know, drove down through Italy to the port of Bari, got on a ferry, went across the Adriatic, landed in the port of Bar, and then drove to Podgorica from there. And I'm thinking, if that's a cost-saving measure, if LNG can be more cost-effective than fuel oil with a supply route like that, then every policymaker in this room and around the region should be thinking, how do we shorten those supply chains and take advantage of this? You can use, it's a substitute good for diesel fuel. You've seen a mature market for LNG for heavy trucks developing, especially in Spain, around Rotterdam, and it's growing. You're seeing announcements. We have Uniper talking. You're opening an LNG truck refueling station in Germany soon. I think you said it's complete. You're just doing the testing. Increasingly stringent regulatory pressure on diesel trucks, I think, is going to lead to growth in the transport sector. This is not something that piped gas is really going to supply. You can't move a heavy truck with compressed natural gas. It really needs LNG. Truck engine technology has improved to the point that there's no sacrifices on horsepower or anything else. It's something of a chicken and egg. The infrastructure is being built out. There are over 5,000 LNG fueled trucks on the road. In the maritime sector, especially the squeeze on sulfur emissions from ships is driving a lot of the investment in LNG bunkering, especially in the Baltic and North Sea, where there's already an emissions control. This is an emissions control area where there are very strict emissions. Just the other day, the government of Spain announced that they support similar restrictions, making the Mediterranean an emissions control area. Less than a year from now, the IMO 2020 is restricting sulfur emissions globally. So you're seeing a lot of ship owners and fleet operators making investments in LNG-fueled ships. So as that's happening, you're seeing development of LNG bunkering to fuel these ships around them, including the Mediterranean. My understanding is that there are already 5 ports in the Mediterranean on the French and Spanish coasts that can fuel ships, and I think I read 10 more that are going to offer that service before the end of the year. On a lark, I looked up Carnival Cruise Line's website. That company, they ordered 8 LNG-fueled ships. These are thousands and thousands of people, and the first one that was delivered, somewhere in my notes, it had what was the name of that ship? If I'm running late, just give me the hook. What was that ship called? It doesn't matter what the ship is called. It's the first one. It just left just yesterday, according to their website. Left La Spezia, Italy. So there's an LNG fueled ship going around the Mediterranean. If this is the way that subsector is going. As the European, there's an EU regulation from 2014 on alternative fuel infrastructure. It includes LNG. According to the directive, by 2025, every EU member state is supposed to have LNG refueling infrastructure for trucks and at ports for maritime uses. The nearest LNG refueling station that I'm aware of, and I hope I'm wrong, I hope there's one closer, but the only one I'm aware of, Ljubljana. So not that far away. And I talked to the operator a couple of months ago. It's owned by Spain's HEM group. About once a week, a truck comes in from the Barcelona terminal and drives all that way to Ljubljana. So it's getting close. It's getting much closer. So I feel like I've been going along. So think about it hard for district heating. It's just in Sarajevo. It seems like a perfect solution there. You could bring LNG containers either by truck or by rail from the port of Ploče to Sarajevo. There's no gas storage in Bosnia. There's no underground gas storage here in North Macedonia. LNG, excellent solution for to have a stock, which is also an energy security element. Very briefly, pipelines. North Macedonia is supplied by a single pipeline, and for that reason, when the gas stress tests were done, Macedonia looks bright red. If there was significant supply disruption, either Russia cut off or a supply disruption transiting Ukraine, because all the gas comes Russia, Ukraine, down through the Trans-Balkan pipeline into Bulgaria and through the Gamas line. 800 million cubic meter capacity, annual demand here is about 200 to 250 million cubic meters, plenty of spare capacity, but it is still a single route. What's the price premium you're willing to pay for security to have an alternate route and presumably the competition that would come with it? It's a societal question. It's not my money, so I'd say the more the merrier. I guess that same old hand that I mentioned before had a bumper sticker that says, you know, happiness is multiple pipelines. So it sounds like a sounds like a good policy to me. So yeah, power generation, district heating, transportation. These are all things that could be supplied by LNG, and in many cases also pipeline gas. The interconnector with Greece, again, I think, and I defer to our colleague from DESFA at the end, you know, as a regulated entity, will DESFA be allowed to invest in a pipeline without sufficient proof of demand in a market test on the other end? You can have a lot of political statements, and I'd say political support in many of these pipeline projects is a necessary but not necessarily a sufficient condition for their construction. So yeah, if Bitila was converted to gas and ESM said we're going to participate in the market test and we're going to get 800, we're going to make a 10, 15-year commitment to get in all our supply at that interconnection point, then I think DESFA could build it. Just kind of postulating here, but I better stop before I get myself in trouble.
Веќе го најави следниот наш говорник, тоа е Sotirios Nikas, кој што и лани беше овдека. Sotirios не интересира да ни објасни што е ново што се случува во грчкиот пазар, кои конектори може да ги очекуваме во наредната година и кој капацитет. Новините кои што ги има новините кои што ги очекуваме при продажбата, колку што имаме информации, DESFA е приватизирана во 66%. Кои се новите конектори кои што ќе ги гради Грција? Јас вчера прочитав информација дека на 20 мај почнува интерконектор помеѓу Република Грција и Република Бугарија. Во напредна фаза и добрите политички односи меѓу двете земји доведува да го вбрзаме проектот за интерконектор меѓу Република Северна Македонија и Република Грција, кој што ќе овозможи поголем и сигурен снабдувач на природен газ. Повели.
Can you hear me?
Take this one.
No, it does not work. Can you hear me now? Okay. Okay, I will use this one. So thank you very much, Mitko, and for the introduction, and thank you, Dan, for the theoretical approach of what I want to say. So, to answer to some of the questions Mitko raised, I want to show you that up to now, you more probably know that Greece has, DESFA actually, as an operator, has 3 entry points with, in the Bulgarian-Greek border, the Turkish-Greek border, and we have also the LNG terminal. But in the near future, we are going to open 3 more entry points, entry-exit points. One is the interconnection with TAP. It's under design and will be constructed soon by end of 2020, as you see. The second is the interconnection with IGB, which we have an interconnection agreement already with Bulgaria and with actually the pipeline, the ICGB. And hopefully the third one will be the entry-exit point with North Macedonia. Let me give you some updates on the pipe interconnection between Greece and North Macedonia. We are in a good point. Actually, both companies are working on this, MEF and DESFA. We have submitted the environmental studies for approval. Environmental approval is a very crucial step in the process. Design is in progress in both countries, and construction activities, if everything will go good, will be June 2021. The technical details have been defined more or less, and the funding of the project in both sides is secured, I would say. In Greece, we expect 37% from the European funds. Here in North Macedonia, the things are much better from what I know. You have also already secured the 95% of the funds of the project. So the only pending and critical issue is the market test. Dan spoke about it a little before. The market test, in accordance with prerequisite which was put by the Regulatory Authority of Greece, we have to perform a two-phases market test. One is the non-binding, the second one is the binding phase, and we are now negotiating with the Regulatory Authority of Greece the details of that market test, which will go out as soon as we have all the approval and all the details. And we will expect that there is mature market, and there are users who will want to book, and it will proven that there is demand, as you said, Dan, before. About Revithousa, which is a very critical asset in all this story. End of this year, we completed the upgrade of this terminal, which is now, I would say, a big one. We finished the third tank, you see that over there, and the sustained maximum send-out rate was increased to 17.1 million normal cubic meters per day. The storage volume was increased to 225,000 cubic meters. And we can now host the biggest vessels, biggest ships in the world, actually the Qatar Max ships. And also the technical capacity was increased to 19.1 or 7 BCM annually. Just after the completion of the second upgrade of the Revithousa terminal, we were glad to welcome the first American gas from shale, first American gas from shale gas. One of the biggest ships, which it was the first journey of that ship, the Maria Energy, one of the biggest now in the world, brought 168,000 cubic meters in Revithousa, and USA in that way became one more supplier which delivered gas to the Revithousa to this entry point. We have now from Algeria, from Norway, from various countries of the world. USA is the last one who entered our portfolio of the terminal users. The utilization rate of Revithousa was increased End of the year was around the 17%, now it's 45%, but there is still available capacity for more export. What can we do with this capacity? This capacity, the extra capacity, can cover the Revitusa capacity can cover around 30% of the imports of the Balkan market, or 33% of the imports of Hungary, and 25% of the imports of Ukraine, provided, of course, that there is transmission capacity and competitive LNG prices. We speak only for the technical capacity of the terminal. I don't want to stay much on the maps. With various investments which we plan for the next years, we can have a reverse flow. Now it is this moment we have 1.5 BCM per year available, firm capacity through Sidirokastro. There are several options, and the maximum one is through TAP to Bulgaria, through TAP and IGB, which is 3.6 BCM annually. It's actually a big capacity. Another option that would be of North Macedonia, of the interest of North Macedonia, and further of what Dan have said before, we in the Revitusa terminal, we are now we are in the design phase, but soon we will go with construction if some negotiations with the regulatory authority we finalized. We will have a truck loading station and a bunkering jetty. The truck loading station will be able to transport, even here in North Macedonia, trucks with LNG. And the bunkering jetty will be able to host small vessels, 1,000 meter each, which can feed other ports and also cruise ships and other ships. All this small-scale LNG infrastructure is planned to be completed by the end of 2022. And last but not least, because infrastructure needs also development of market, trading platforms, etc., we have created with other companies, ADMIE, the electricity company, and others, the European, the BRD, the Hellenic exchange market, the energy exchange market, in order to exploit the economies of scale and promote efficiency by sharing infrastructure and avoiding duplication of efforts. This wholesale gas market has the ambition to cover the whole area, the whole region, and recently we have sent a questionnaire to MEF to make them aware of what's happening in this creation of this market, and let them decide to be part of that in the future. So this is regarding the LNG and pipelines. We also follow the changes in the European Union, which now have the plan to phasing out fossil fuel by 2025 to 2030, and have also solutions, try to find solutions for the transportation, etc. We're working on virtual pipelines to supply gas from Revithousa to the islands for power generation, to ships, as I mentioned before, to public and the commercial and personal vehicles, and trying to use the biomass, enter the biomass gas in the system, and develop also a market there. So this is all what we do, and I hope I covered some of your questions.
Благодарам. Следен говорник ќе биде Бранко Milcevic од Економската комисија на Обединетите нации. Како природниот газ ќе помогне врз целите на одржлив развој на Обединетите нации со посебен осврт на целите под број 7, што значи енергија и енергетика, број 12 за економски развој и број 13 за климатски промени. Повелете.
Thank you, Mitko. I think we've heard many interesting ideas as to how natural gas can help development, sustainable development of countries from previous speakers, so there is very little to add here. Just if you allow me, I will just briefly describe you this framework under which we, the United Nations, operate. In 2015, the US General Assembly adopted a new 15-year program for sustainable development that consisted of 17 sustainable development goals that define what should be done to reach certain level of progress, economic, environmental protection, social development, as those 17 goals describe. In the field of energy, and specifically sustainable energy, often people think about the interplay between the Sustainable Goal 7 that talks about access to energy, increasing energy efficiency, and then the Sustainable Goal 13 that talks about climate change. We didn't hear much about climate change. I don't want to spend much time on this, but certainly it is one very important concern that needs to be addressed. However, we often at the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, we always talk about the concept we call energy for sustainable development. So we kind of refuse to only talk about Sustainable Goal 7 on energy, but to say that energy is the driver, is the vehicle for achieving anything, any progress in many fields, so as such it is very important. And towards such outcomes, we have a Committee on Sustainable Energy, and we have 7 groups under the committee, or 6 groups that deal with various things, including there is a group of experts on gas, to which I'm the secretary. And this group tried to develop some concrete recommendations or best practices or other instruments that will demonstrate to member states what can be done in this field. The other important sustainable development goals that I'd like to mention here, and later I'll probably give you some sort of a vision for Macedonia, is the Sustainable Goals 8 and 9, which talk about industrial development, economic development, which talk about industry and about innovation. And these things are extremely important. Before I go there, let me just read one of those Sustainable Development Goal 7, which normally people talk about energy efficiency, about renewable energy, about access to energy, meaning whether you have or not, and these are mostly publicized targets. However, there is one target that is also there, and it's the target 7A, which says, by 2030, enhance international cooperation to facilitate access to clean energy research and technology, including renewable energy, energy efficiency, and advanced and cleaner fossil fuel technology, and promote investment in energy infrastructure and clean energy technology. This means that contrary to what you often hear in the media, we need to do something about fossil fuels. Fossil fuels supply 80% of our primary energy throughout the world. In Germany, which is the leader in renewable energy, fossil fuels supply 67% of the primary energy of Germany. So as a result, practically this is this elephant in the room. Most people concerned about the environment want to say, let's switch off, let's shut down coal and gas and everything and oil. It's all bad, we should not use them, stop today. It would be really great if it is possible, but it's simply not possible. And we will have to continue to use fossil fuels. The goal here is how to use them more efficiently, more cleanly. And this is what our group of experts on gas is trying to help member states with. So, for example, as you heard from some previous speakers, our group of experts on gas developed recommendations for removing barriers to the use of gas in transportation, both maritime and land-based. We developed another case study of Spain that talks about truck loading of LNG, that provides a concrete examples of how you can play with your energy mix and make it less energy intensive. The ultimate goal is for each country, for each member state, is to try to reduce its carbon footprint of its energy sector and carbon footprint of the entire society. In terms of how energy is produced, but also how we behave in terms of our social and economic patterns. So as a result, there is a need to really try to move and understand limitations. Now, I don't think that we are too naive here to believe that we can just say, let's switch off lignite power plant in Bitola and turn it to gas. I would very much support this idea, and this is the way to go. How to do it? No, the devil is in all those details. How quickly? But because to actually go to those details, you probably need a big vision, which then helps you then figure out the details. And the big vision is what I'm going to say here, which is to try to connect those sustainable development goals related, 7 related to energy, 8 to develop to industrial development, 9 to innovation, and to think in terms of developing some sort of energy, industry, social, if you wish, transport corridors. There is one corridor you heard about, Corridor 10, which is actually our organization, UNECE, is setting up those corridors that goes from Greece all the way to Poland. This is a transportation corridor. Along this corridor, you may like to have an energy corridor that may include pipelines, but not necessarily pipelines. It also may be a virtual pipeline, maybe a truck-loaded LNG or trains with LNG, or a combination of all those things. But at the same time, it's very important to develop industrial demand and development along those routes. If a country X decides only to try to profit from transit revenues, but just does not bother what's going on inside, the chances are this opportunity will be missed. But if there is some gas, not so far, you may think about how actually to go and use more gas. We just heard from our Ukrainian colleague that Ukraine consumes more than 30 BCM a year. Well, it's 100 times more than Macedonia, North Macedonia. So obviously there is a huge possibility not to increase to the capacity of interconnection to 0.8, but to increase it to 10. And if you do so, if you actually create a single user industry that would bring a value added by using gas, using transport infrastructure to develop new products and then resell them later, that would be a winning combination in which in this way you create jobs through innovation, you use energy, you decarbonize your energy sector by not using lignite and switching to gas. So in this sense, gas is actually good if it replaces other more carbon-intensive alternatives. In this case, in case of Macedonia, it is lignite. So the idea here is somehow to think of all those options, make some bold moves, decarbonize to the extent possible, use what we heard, I believe from Mr. Kopacz earlier, that it's a kind of blessing in disguise that you are running out of lignite. I kind of agree with this. This challenge, there is a way maybe to turn it into opportunity now with new political stability, with many things positive that happens around North Macedonia. I think this is quite possible. Our group of experts on gas that meets annually, and last time it met in March, discussed many topics that may be of your interest. I'll give you just a few. One, we discussed the pipelines. We chose 4 different routes. One was called South. It is the projected gas to come from Israel or Cyprus. North from Norway, east from north from Russia, west from Norway, and then east from Azerbaijan, which is the TAP already mentioned. So you may think about how to tap into TAP, how to use those 10 BCM that are not far and what you actually using practically nothing. It's a thought that is quite possible. Then the second activity that we have is also called synergies between gas and renewable energy. I think it's quite obvious what is this about. The third one is the role of gas in improving urban air quality. Well, a lot of things can be done to replace solid fuels, to replace firewood and possibly coal, and in heating and in transportation, including in switching from diesel to LNG, for example, to clean the air of Skopje, to clean the air of Bitola, to clean the air of many, many cities. Lately, those crises were addressed in Geneva, including situation in Skopje. It was specifically mentioned that practically the world leaders in urban pollution happen to be countries, cities in Western Balkans, a few of them, quite a few, and also in Turkey. So the next theme, next field of work that is also of your interest, we look in the so-called emerging issues. We talk about hydrogen here, about green hydrogen that comes from biomass, the blue hydrogen that comes from electrolyzing water. We talk about biogas, biomethane, about how gas infrastructure could be used to facilitate a transition to a future, maybe hydrogen economy, maybe not. This is a long shot. And hydrogen may come on the agenda again, may disappear, God knows. But definitely it's good to keep an eye. So I would like to invite, whoever is interested to keep an eye on what we do, keep an eye on the recommendations that our experts develop and we publish them. And some lessons provided there might be maybe a good thing to consider as a starting point for some of you here in North Macedonia. So, thank you.
Благодарам, Бранко. Трговијата со природен газ, опции за снабдување на земјите од Западен Балкан. Ќе ни се обрати директорот за Балкан на Uniper технологии, Barnim Piechorowski. Поведете, господине Barnim.
Thank you very much, Mitko. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the organizers and especially to Dragan Minovski for inviting Uniper to this forum. I'm from Uniper, a company that most of you might not know because it's a very young company, but with a long history. Uniper exists only since 2016. It is a spin-off from E.ON, the big German utility that most of you will know. The portfolio of Uniper is conventional power generation, say from coal, gas, but also from hydro. We have global commodity trading, power and gas, and we are dealing with energy storage, energy sales, and also general energy services. Some key figures: we have a 1.5 billion euro EBITDA, we have roughly 12,000 employees, and we have approximately 37 gigawatt of power generation. Now talking about the gas value chain. We are covering the whole gas value chain from supplies over infrastructure into sales. Let's go a little bit into the details of these ones. We have a sales portfolio of in total 1.7 trillion trillion watt hours, sorry, and thereof 400,000 are contracted long term. That is approximately 36 BCM if you convert this. If you assume that Germany has a supply portfolio of 900 terawatt hours, Uniper is providing approximately 400,000 terawatt hours of that supply. With regard to infrastructure for LNG regas, we have bookings in Gate and in Grain, and we have access to terminals in Spain. In addition, we are also developing the first LNG terminal in Germany at Wilhelmshaven. For transmission, we have and have had shareholdings in major European transit pipelines, and I will focus a little bit on this in the next slides. For storage, we are the third biggest storage player in Europe with a 8.2 BCM of storage capacity, and our sales portfolio as a supply portfolio is 1.7 terawatt hours, and in total that reflects a market share of roughly 40% in Germany. If we are looking at the bigger European picture, we have this well-known import gap due to the declining indigenous production. So Europe must import more gas. From where can this gas come? It was already mentioned that there are several corridors into Europe. For sure, from the North Sea, from Russia, we have the South Corridor, where TAP is in. There might be new supply options, East Med, coming from Israel. There are existing supplies from North Africa, and there is LNG flowing into Europe. So the Southern Gas Corridor, and especially the TAP pipeline, would be the key infrastructure in order to supply gas to the Southern Balkans. If we look again into the infrastructure projects of Uniper, we see that we have quite some shares in infrastructure, gas infrastructure around Europe, also including Nord Stream. But, and this is important for our discussion now on the region, we have had a share in TAP. Why am I saying we have had? So in 2010, our former company E.ON joined the TAP project in order to get it developed because we believed in this new supply source in the Caspian. So we took a shareholding of 15% in that project company, and it happened that I was seconded into that management of the project company, and it lasted 7 years. So in fact, what resulted out of this shareholding was a supply contract from Azerbaijan. So, and Uniper has inherited that from E.ON. We'll say we have a 25-year supply contract of 1.5 BCM per year via TAP. If we are now looking to the potential gas sources for the Southern Balkans, first, the red shaded area via the TAP pipeline. That might be coming from the east, gas deliveries from Azerbaijan, or potentially later also Turkey. And from the east, there's Italy and the other EU markets. If we look to number 2, supplies from the east, there are deliveries through the so-called West Line and the domestic infrastructure from Bulgaria, Romania, Ukraine, and potentially also via the Black Sea. Number 3, the northwest. There could be access of this region to the European markets through Italy and through IAP, the Ionian Adriatic Pipeline, which is a project which is now under development for quite a long time. And with this interlinkage, this region here would have access to liquid gas markets in Austria, Hungary, Germany, and also the Netherlands. And last but not least, number 4, the LNG options. So, as we have discussed already before, LNG might be a quite valuable option for the Southern Balkan region, and that might be via the existing LNG terminal in Revitusa in Greece, or there's another one planned in Alexandroupoli. And there's also potential from Italy and Malta. So, but in total, we think that gas deliveries via TAP and the related connection pipelines will be the basis for the gas supply to the Southern Balkans. Now, going a little bit even more into the details, what does the European gas pipeline network in the Southern Balkans look like? So you have in blue the TAP pipeline, which is crossing this region. On the right side, on the bottom right side, there is the supply via TANAP or the BOTAS system. Sotirios has mentioned before that there is an existing contract between Turkey and Greece. So that is another import point into Greece. Then we have coming from the east-north via the existing Bulgarian system and the IGB, hopefully to come. There is the option to bring gas from that region and further on into TAP and then into the region. On the west side, we have Italy, which can use TAP in reverse flow, and the dotted line is the Ionian Adriatic Pipeline, which might be quite a good opportunity for that region as well. And now if we are looking to the middle, we have Northern Macedonia. So excuse me that this is still mentioned Fyrom, but to Northern Macedonia there is, with a dotted line, this connecting pipeline from Nea Mesembria in Greece going into Northern Macedonia, connecting to the gas ring, and potentially also later given the option to expanding this line of supply up into Kosovo. And there we are back to the subject, what we have already discussed, replacement of lignite-fired power generation by gas would be a huge progress for this reason and for this region, and Kosovo might be also a very good example for this one. Thank you.
Благодарам. Пред да ги изведеме финалните заклучоци, дали има прашања од публиката? Нема. Ви благодарам за учеството на сите поединечно. Сакам да заклучам дека многу работи од првиот енергетски форум до денеска се случија. Се надевам од сите ваши презентации и сите согледувања дека наредните форуми ќе имаме многу новитети во секторот газ да соопштиме. Пред се тука мислам на предностите регионални кои што ќе ги понуди Реветјуса, зголемувањето и на потрошувачката на природен газ во сите негови облици. Преку гасовод, преку CNG, преку LNG, користењето на индустријата. Ние имаме во нашата земја веќе една индустрија која што е припремена да користи LNG во некои маргини од 3 до 5 милиони килограми годишно. Се надевам дека тој пример на таа индустрија ќе го следат и другите индустрии. Искрено, лично се надевам дека овој форум ќе побуди интерес и кај приватните инвеститори, и кај државните институции да погледнат на природниот газ како една перспектива која што треба да го замени јагленот во овој регион. Посебно мислам тука на Косово, посебно мислам на ЕСМ, во сите своји производствени капацитети. Дали е тоа во помош при горењето на јагленот во оваа фаза или во некоја следна фаза каде што тотално ќе се замени, во целост ќе се замени производството на електрична енергија од јаглен во производство на електрична енергија од природен газ. Ви благодарам за вниманието. Денешниот ден од овој смисол, од панел, од дискусии е завршен. Ќе ве поканам вечерва да се придружите на вечера и потоа една мала забава. Ви благодарам.